Hello, all. My name is Michelle Turner, and this is The Collective on WSME, SM Enlightenment Radio, WSME Enlightenment Media. Good evening to you. Today's show focuses on authors and empowerment and women telling a story about how they got through whatever it is they needed to get through and get done, and how other women can take their stories and use them as a life lesson to help them get through. So, we welcome to the collective this morning two authors of the book Emerging, which was just released on Amazon. And it's 12 female leaders who share their stories of inspiration, hope, and perseverance. The main author, Tara Hall, is with us, as well as one of the contributing authors, and her name is Unedra Moulay. We welcome them both. I'm so excited. We welcome them both to the collective. Good morning, Tara and Unedra. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
So, Tara, the book just was released, correct? Like
Yes,
this past month or
yes.
sometime during this month, January 12th?
January 16th, actually, on Amazon.
Okay. All right. Sorry, January 12th is my daughter's birthday, so it's like anything January, I'm like, it's the 12th.
That's right. That's an exciting time.
So, you've already had one book released on Amazon. You were a
Actually, two.
co-author.
Yeah,
So it's two?
yeah. The first one was a compilation, just like this one here, and that was in about January of 2019. And my own book was published last March, 2020. And here we are, first quarter again, and another book.
Pretty productive, huh?
Yeah, I would say.
So, what made you decide that this was something you wanted to do? Because you stand in the shoes of a life coach for a lot of people.
Mhm.
But why the books? Is that an extension?
Yeah, it's absolutely an extension of my product suite, and what I thought most about was actually my first compilation, which was called Phenomenal Women, and I was in that book with about, I want to say it was about 14 other women.
Hmm.
And so from that experience, I really got a little bit of the bug, if you will, around, sharing my story, because it started with me telling my own first. And from that, I got some support to do my own. And then from that experience, I said, this would be a great opportunity for me to give back and do what someone had done for me in that first compilation, and to be able to share their story. Because sometimes people like myself, first time around, I wasn't ready to write an entire book. And I was like, a chapter? Yeah, I could do that. I could definitely do a chapter. So when I proposed the idea to the 11 other ladies, contributing authors, to the book, it definitely seemed like it was definitely something that was doable for them, and they were, ready to jump on board. So that's where everything kind of started.
So, how did you and Unedra hook up? And then, Unedra, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Okay.
Well, it actually starts through our daytime
Hmm.
investor, as I call it, our 9 to 5. We're in a similar line of work, and so through that, through committees, I'm not even sure how long we've known each other. It's been quite a few years now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of started there.
Okay. Unedra, when you were approached by Tara, what were
Mhm.
your first thoughts? Like, girl, I can't write, or girl, I'm not an author.
And
Were you on that road, or were you like, this is an interesting idea, I should consider it?
exactly. When I was first approached, I said, no way, I cannot do this. Write a book? Never mind, write a chapter. Kind of you're crazy. I'm not doing this. Forget it. All of those words came right out of my mouth. I kind of laughed about it. But then after a while, I got the download. You are doing this. And I took that step of faith, And I said, okay, I'm going to be a part of it. And I kind of came to the group a little bit towards maybe in the middle of the end. I think they already were
Mhm.
having conversations.
Mhm.
So when I jumped in to the sessions, just hearing and seeing from the other women, it was so powerful. And it was really encouraging for me to hear. And I didn't have a story at all. I didn't know what I wanted to write about. I was going back and forth. Everybody has challenges, everybody has
Right.
things that they've gone
Right.
through in their life. But I kept hearing, what do you want to leave the reader? How do you want to impact? So I started, Tara laughs, everybody laughs. I'm a sticky person. So in the middle of the night, I was getting words, downloads of words, phrases,
Mm.
pictures, and I just wake up, write them down, stick the sticky on the wall, stick it somewhere. And when I started thinking about the journey I've been on and the story I wanted to share, I had stickies everywhere on the floor. If someone was to walk in, they would think that was total chaos, but that was my process. And I'm glad I did it. I got it out. And I want to be inspiration for the other women who read it, or men, that it would be
Yeah.
life changing.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like, even though it's mostly women authors sharing their stories,
Right,
it seems that it is for everyone.
right.
No matter what you're going through, I think people can relate to the different stories that the women are telling about points in their lives that changed them.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not to say that they were, because some women, it seemed, and I'll get into it in the second half of the show, but it seemed some women were leading, ordinary, regular lives. They, folks charted out what they wanted to do and they did it and they were doing it. And then something came along to change. And it seemed that for all of that, for most women, it was for the better.
Hmm.
So, Tara, let me ask you, in conceiving this book, based on you being a contributing author to other books, is there or was there a particular thread you were looking for in all the stories, or you just approached people because you thought that they had so-called good stories?
Well, no, what's interesting, it was quite the opposite. I really was who I was looking for first and foremost, I would say, is I was looking for professional women like myself. I was looking for women who were established in their career, who, had been, had a stable employment, and they had been just, like you said, kind of just living life. And what I knew about all of the women was there was a piece of me in all of the women, in the sense that
Mm.
there was we all kind of hit a point or a threshold in our life where, like you said, we have the accolades, we have the career, we have the family, the car, the kids, and all that. And then you're like, okay, now what? So I said, if I'm in this place, I know there must be some other women out there who are in a similar space as well. So when everyone came, I really only gave them the title of the book, because I had my
Ah.
own download in the summer about this, and I am a person who believes that when I get something, it goes right here in my notes. It goes in my notes section in my phone, because I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what emerging is, but it's something, and I'm going to write that down. And then when I made the decision to go forward with the book idea, I said, that's the title of the book. So when all the ladies came together, I really just thought about those different chapters that we were all in our lives at different places. And we all came out of those chapters to enter another chapter. So when I thought about emerging, I just thought, whatever stories they have, I gave a framework for the story, but I really left everyone to their own creative freedom about what story they wanted to share.
Now, let
My
me ask you, let me just sidestep a little bit. Is that good? Is that bad? Because sometimes, you leave people to their own devices and they come all the way from another side and you go,
yeah, well,
that's not quite what I was looking for. So can we dial it back a little bit? Did you have a lot of that because you left people to their own devices?
Well, I qualify that because everyone had there was parameters around what I did not want,
Uh-huh.
how they could not tell the story. I didn't want anything that had something that they were not healed from. That was really the first parameter.
Mm,
Because for me, knowing that I did not know what story someone was going to tell, it was very important to me to make sure that the story that they did select was one that they had healed from.
Mhm.
Because when you've healed from that story, you're able to give perspective to it and say, okay, this is now how I can walk someone else through. As Nedra was saying, what did and I kept telling the ladies to ask themselves this: what is it that you want to leave the reader with? Because now you've come out of that place, you've come out of that chapter. Someone else could be right in that chapter right now. That's their present moment. And what could you leave them with? So
hmm
so although I left the creative freedoms, everything just came together so nicely in what I received. So I was really blessed with, I didn't have to like say, no, that's too far over there. That's not where we're
Yeah.
going. I really was blessed that I didn't have that. We did some tweaking of a few things, had to get some clarification from some people about their story to make sure, are you sure this is it now? Because once it's out there, it's there. you know.
Yeah. And so is it the typical writer process where, you get a draft and then you look at that draft and you go over it with the person and you go through 2 or 3 drafts and then you say, as you just said, okay, this looks good.
Yeah.
You certain this is what you want?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the coaching part comes in. We had coaching, I built in coaching sessions as part of the process so that everyone could hear where each other was at. So it was also accountability, but it was also opportunity to share where their strengths were in the process and where they may have needed some extra support in the process. So like I said, everyone really brought really rich stories to the table. And I was wowed because they were all so different, but there was absolutely a common theme in the stories, which I won't share. I'm going to leave that to the readers to catch.
And indeed. So, Unedra,
Yeah.
in writing and choosing your story, what did you think would fit? Because you have 11 other women.
Mhm.
You are, although you are a professional woman and you have different things in common with these women, what did you think would I'm thinking fit, but I'm also thinking correlate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or better yet, just break it down like I'm talking to a third grader. What would go together?
Right. I just, through my process, I just heard what Tara was saying. What do you want to leave the readers with? And
Mm,
when I heard the title Emerging, I just took that. I didn't think about what the other women may be writing or making
mhm,
sure that there's a common theme or a story. I just went through my life and I thought about, okay, I've been through some things, right? Um, when I write my story, I want it to be so impactful that it's life changing. So
mm,
I was, let me write about this. No. And it was clear as day. When I finally said, okay, this is it, it flowed. I sat at the table one day with pen in hand, with stickies all around, because I started writing a few things.
yeah,
It
yeah.
just I was like, Lord, let's go. And it just was a download. And I want to make sure that for anybody who reads the book, even my chapter, that they're going to walk away with, I can do this.
Mm,
I can do it. I can rise up out of whatever their situation is, right? Because it may not be the same as mine, but it may be a place where someone is at that
Mhm.
they're stuck and trying to figure it out. And that was my process. I said, I want this to be life changing for those who read this book. And then when they down the line, they'll say, oh, yeah, I did it. And then it's forwarded on to someone else.
So how many days did it take you?
Oh, to actually write it?
Yeah.
Oh no. Once I started it, I finished it. And
Wow.
it was
So it was hours.
it was it's a blur. I know that because I was at that table and I said, "Come on, Lord, what do you want me to say?" And when I finally realized, I said, "I have my chapter." Now, of course, I went back and read it and had to take some things out and shift it around, but I got it out. It
Yeah.
was out. And Tara, of course, with the drafts and kind of the questions, tweaking it and making sure,
Yeah.
but it was out. And I when I finally went the final draft, I didn't read it for a while.
Mm.
So recently I picked it up. I was like, my gosh, did I write that? You know, not that I'm worried about because I've overcame that. I talk about my story. I've
Yeah.
done workshops, so
Yeah.
I'm so when Tara says you have to overcome it, you have to get all your stuff out, the emotion. Oh yeah, that I have no problem with that.
Mm.
But it was like, woo, remembering that moment because it's still
Mhm.
there, right? You
Mhm.
remember it. And that's how impactful you can be because you can walk somebody through that process. And if someone were to read the chapter, read the book and give feedback, wow, yes, I'm going through this, you'll be able to speak life through that because you've gone through it.
Yeah.
So
And
it
and it seems as if too, when you walk away from it and you come back to it, you have a different perspective, right?
yes,
Yeah.
Because you know that you have it on paper, you've gotten it all out, but now you're seeing it with fresh eyes.
right,
And so that makes it a lot different
right,
as opposed to when you were sitting there writing it.
right, right.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
I'm excited because I just feel that this is just the beginning. There's going to be more to this. And
Uh-oh.
I think I
Sorry,
just,
you woke up sleeping
no,
giant.
no, it's
That
not,
was my hope.
and I think I said it in our sessions that this book had to come out. And I think
Mm,
that a lot of women, when they read everyone's story, not just mine or Tara's, but the whole book, right? I think a lot of people are going to be impacted and they're probably going to want to hear more. And I think it's important for us to kind of help, and just take this work and move it forward. I know Tara's talking about some things she wants to do, but I'm behind her 100% because I feel it. I feel it that this is an important work. So I'll
it's
stop.
impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah.
And Tara, what is your process? What's your process like
For writing?
for writing and compiling?
Oh, wow. Well, I was so my writing process, I'll start there. It's kind of the same. I can get on a spurt where I have this idea and I've got to get it out and I just write. I just write. I don't edit. I just write it. Well, type it. And I just let it be. And I have a couple I've already started on because I'm going to do another one by the end of this year, another compilation. But that's I don't want to reveal the details of that one yet because that one's going to be.
Okay.
But the other thing I am going to do is a Jumpstart series, which is going to be a set of 4 mini books. And that's not all this year, but I have already started writing those. And I'm kind of like, as Nedra was saying, when you get ideas, you get it out and then you have to move things around. And so I have a lot out of me. And I just now have to kind of go back and put it in some kind of structure. But the way that I was taught is that you free flow, you let it come out, you just write, you don't self edit because that's usually what is a hiccup for people to get the story out is they keep trying to edit while they're writing the story.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so my process was really to take what I've learned in my trainings around how to get the story out And then I've used all those tools with the ladies as we were doing our coaching sessions, because I Nedra remembers there was like 5 steps we go through, and like 3 out of the, no, excuse me, I think it's like 6 steps. 3 out of the 6 is what, Nedra? Do you remember? Don't what?
Don't edit failure. Don't edit. Don't
Yep.
edit. Don't edit.
Yeah. It's like repetitive. It's like repetitive in the steps purposely, because people, it's just human nature. We want to go back and fix something, and it's like, no, just sit down and let it flow. And so my process is very much the same. I follow what I teach, and just let it come out and clean it up later. And the other thing is, people don't realize that your story, even the one you get out, that can sometimes be a couple of chapters.
Yeah.
So people are just trying to, tell you everything. And it's like, no, you don't actually have to do that. You can keep it easy, and you can actually get a book out of it. If you work it well, you can. So
is it a case too, and this question is directed at the both of you with the last 4 minutes that we have in this segment, is it almost like this was mine and now I'm releasing it to you? So this is my gift, or this is what I'm sharing, and I no longer have ownership of it.
I'll let you go first, Nedra, on that one. I'm going to pass that to you.
I know. I have to think about that.
Because it seems that if you're trying to inspire someone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then you're giving.
True.
Yeah, I am right. I think
You're giving.
Yeah. I think it's like, it's the words of my testimony. It was mine. It was something I've gone through. I am sharing it now as if I can do it, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I got through it. You can get through it. And kind of like, I'm here to help you. This is how I did it. Not that you have to, because I give a little nuggets to kind of help give some references to different things. I don't want to give it all away, but I'm giving it. I'm giving all myself to them, whomever is reading it, so that they can make it through whatever it is that they're going through.
Tara, what about you?
Yeah, and I would definitely say that was my goal for all of the stories, is for everyone to feel like they've walked themselves through the story, whether that was, whatever it was that they opted to share, and to reverse engineer it, right? So you have now come through, and you have now given someone else the formula or the steps if they were in that situation. Yeah. And like Nedra was saying, you just never know. It could just be a portion of someone's story. It doesn't have to be the whole thing, but it could be a couple of those nuggets that you dropped in your story, and they're like, I needed to read that. I needed to read that again. And that's all someone might need, is just a little nugget. And then you can kind of send them on their way to getting out of where they were at, or to seek out resources or supports. Some of the ladies have shared, they've gone to counseling. So they've worked through a lot of their stuff. And there is no shame in any of that, because writing it, honestly, is therapeutic for some people. So
it is, yes.
Whether you have journals, whether you journal daily, or you just journal at points, in your day, it's all therapeutic. And that was one message that kind of rang clear through our time together, of people sharing that writing was therapeutic for them, and it was their release as well.
This is The Collective on WSME Enlightenment Media. I am talking to a contributing author, and do I say main author? Is that Tara?
You can say visionary.
It sounds kind of weird, but
yeah,
that's sort of who you are, right? And contributing officer, as well as the main author and person who compiled the book Emerging, which is on Amazon. We'll be back after this. Returning from the break, this is The Collective, and I'm Michelle Turner. And on the show today, we have a contributing author and main author of the book Emerging. And let me read you the Amazon description of the book. And I'm holding it out here because, the older you get, the further out you can see. Emerging is a collection of female leaders who possess gifts and internal power. They acknowledge their truth and have embraced various seasons of life to share how they persevered and pressed through life's ups and downs. Courage and vulnerability have helped them learn success strategies to stand up and rise. Is that woman you? Is it you? As you read this book, these strong women provide the necessary strategies to help you release old thoughts and behaviors that may be blocking your ability to step into your next best season. With clarity and confidence, you can unapologetically live with a sense of freedom. It is time for you to fully emerge. And with that, we welcome Tara Hall, who is the compilation author, and Unedra Moulay, who is one of the contributing authors. Thank you so much, the both of you, for being on The Collective today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So when I read that description, right, I'm there was something that struck me. Courage and vulnerability have helped them learn success strategies to stand up and rise. If that is the case, and that's what you're looking for women to do, when you're in those coaching sessions, Tara, how do you advise people to see the courage and vulnerability in their stories?
It kind of happened through our discussions. One of the things that, these are the words the ladies use. They're not my words, but when we had our our time together, and one thing they all shared was that what was created was a safe space for them. Yeah. So through the process of them sharing, and I have to say this, just to insert this piece in here, is that none of the ladies know of each other's stories. So it will be a gift to them to hear they've met these ladies, but they have not read their story either. And that's part of the process for me to get them to feel courageous and to feel vulnerable, is that they only focused on their journey in the coaching sessions. They didn't know what each other had written about. They may have shared like an idea or a format of how they could unpack their story. And I think it was through those sessions that they were able to see that. And I always told them this. I said, I will get you to the other side of this. You will do this. Like, you will see this through, because you're going to feel so good when it's done. And you're going to look back and go, oh my God, I did this, right? And so I think it actually happened through the process of where we were in the coaching sessions, and just keeping them informed. We had a closed Facebook group, so they could communicate with each other. They could share who they were. They could celebrate their wins along the way in the journey. So I really think it was a combination of all those things that got them to the place of now. And Nedra can speak for herself about, once it's done, how do you feel? Like, oh my gosh, I really did do it. Like, this is my chapter, So I think it was a combination of all of those elements in the sessions, and the ladies feeling like they weren't alone, and they all at some point said that they didn't go through this process alone. So that there was comfort in the numbers.
And Unedra, is that where you are?
Yes. I can't believe I did it, right? I went from no, absolutely not, you're crazy, to I did it. I wrote a chapter. I feel I'm so excited, right? But Tara really, through her sessions, really helped us all because we were all talking about how do we do it, how do we write, how do we get it on paper. And Tara really walked us through that process, really gave us just concrete, just clear instructions about how to do that. And things really stick out about what do you want to leave the readers with, and you want to invite them into that space. Like, they need to feel what you're writing about.
Yeah.
Those were great takeaways. But to be with the other women, we were just encouraging one another, and if someone was getting the story out, I was struggling too. So we encouraged one another, but we were also held responsible because there were deadlines. And if you didn't get your stuff in, Tara was not playing around.
Yeah.
Because I needed that. When she said September 25th, I need the draft, you better had your draft. Right. So it got it. We needed that. Well, I needed that, I'll just say, because we had to be responsible for what we're doing. This was something that, I'm just going to go through the motions with. We encouraged one another, we strengthened one another, and we made sure that, when things were due, things were due.
Yeah.
So that we can move through. It really was a great process. It really was. I can't even find the words. I'm excited, but that she brought us through that process and that journey. And here we are. We are on the other side. There was a moment. I didn't think that this was, I didn't see the light on the other side. I was still in front of that mountain, like, crumble, please. but yeah, here I am.
Yeah, because I think with one of my trainings is writing. And I'm listening to you all and I think about my own process. Yes. You have to adhere to deadlines. That rough draft is always a monster, right? It's either you're sputtering along or all of a sudden you sit down and it hits you and you're just writing, right?
Yeah.
And then when you look at it, it's like, okay, the word count is a little high. The word count is high. You not necessarily all over the place, but it does make sense, but it's so much of it because it's so broad.
Yeah.
So you have to think in terms of, okay, how can I narrow it down so that it fits the parameters of what I need to say? And it is a process, and people say, which always cracks me up, right? Well, I don't understand why a writer gets $1 million. It's like, sit down and try to write a book.
Yeah.
Sit down and try to write, something that's informative or is personal, or you're sharing a feature, right? You're doing a feature on someone. It is time. Yes. It takes time. It's energy. You live with the piece. You often say, and this is different for you all because you're writing from your own experience. Yeah. But a lot of fiction writers will tell you after a few days, they're living with that character. Like they wake up in the morning and see the character, before they go to bed at night, they see the character. They're having, they're eating and the character is sitting there with them at the table, it's a whole process. And so I think when you start to, if you were to think about the process, you may not write. Yeah. Because there's a lot of things that are vested in that process. Yeah. And that's why too, if you follow authors or you're someone who reads, a lot of times these authors go into their own spaces. You know, they have a little shed where they go and write so
Right.
that nobody can break their concentration. And it becomes real work. It's fun, you know, and like you said, once you get through that other side, you're like, ah, yes, love it, did it. I'm ready for it, you know? And you also walk away from it for a few days.
Mhm.
You know, you don't think about it, you try to put things to bed in your mind, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's time for me to go back and look at it. Let me see what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And you come up with it.
Yeah.
You come up with things like emerging. So Tara, you said that you've got other things in the pipeline.
Mhm.
Are they all in the same vein? Are they all something to get people to deal with their situations and show that other people have been through it? Because a lot of times I think, and we're all discovering this in the pandemic, right? That we feel like there's something that we've been through or we're going through and we're alone in it.
Right.
And we don't necessarily have someone who will understand what exactly it is that we're going through.
Mhm. Mhm.
So in these books and in your next set of things coming down the pipe, are we dealing sort of with still empowerment and being courageous and showing how life sometimes flips us over? Get up
Yeah.
and get away from that.
Yeah, definitely. The next project that I actually have is I'm going to be working with 5 individuals who want to do their own book. So I'm starting an 8-week program, which will start actually March 15th. But I'm doing an informational session just to see where people are at, those who are really interested. And I'm only working with 5 individuals because that's a different process. That's a little bit more intensive, but it's going to be the same premise. It's going to be individuals. I've already spoken with a couple of people who, and this isn't just, excuse me, this isn't just women, because now they're doing their own individual books. And there's a gentleman that I am connected with. He's over in India, and he's been trying to get his done. So
Wow.
he's interested in. He's like, I started mine, but I'm stuck, Tara. So, and that's what happens, right? You get started and
Yeah,
you get
it's part of that process.
yeah. So what their book will be about, I don't know specifically yet. But the next project after that, which is my Q4 goal, is another compilation. And that's the one I don't want to spill the beans on yet, but it is still
Men
in
and women, or just women, or
um it'll be
can you at least say that, or just say yes?
okay. Yes. I'll say yes, yes, okay. And and that project I'm still in the works on, because I've spoken with a few people to see if they're really on board with it. And but it almost will be a little bit of an extension of Emerge, and because that will be another compilation, just done a little differently, and from a different perspective. So those are my book projects for the year, and that's really it for the books. My well, for this year anyway, I'll say, but I know there'll be more to come. But for this year, in helping people and coaching people to get their story out, that is the first one is the 8-week program that I have coming up, and then the project that will be my project again towards the end of this year. So I'm excited about that, because it's been a very rewarding process for me to help walk
Mm,
people through, and
yeah.
to take someone who went from I don't know about this, Tara, like I'm not sure about this, and this I'm not sure about if I should do this. Well, the story's out, and I don't know if I should have told that story, because then you get, after it's out, I had to talk with a few people about after it came out too. And it's like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, I went through that same experience too after I was
Yeah.
done with mine. And I was like questioning myself, like, oh, should I have put that in there? Maybe this should have been longer, because my first book is a very short read. And but
Mm,
that was purposeful, because I just felt I needed to get out what I needed to get out and be done with it. I didn't want to keep writing just to write. Like, it was what I needed to say. It was my start, And that was it. So it is a very rewarding process to coach people through the process of getting them from where they're like, yeah, this is not going to happen, to when's it going to be released. So it's been great.
Unedra,
Yeah.
what do you hope people take away from your story?
Oh, I just wanted to just really bless them. And the takeaway is that they're not alone in this, that there's a lot of support and they can do it too. So just rise up, get up, and take that step forward and move on. I think that was my biggest takeaway from my story.
So, Tara, if somebody wants to join in on your 8-week process, are you selecting people, or is this open to the public?
It's open, and people can connect with me for information on it. Actually, on my Facebook business page, Tara Hall Inspired Solutions. It's under the events section, and I'm hosting an informational session first. Because with this particular project, people have to really be in the right mindset to take this on, because it's going to move pretty quickly. I mean, our time together, Nedra, was just about 6 weeks, I want to say, total, in terms of the actual process of writing and coaching. And this one is going to be 8 weeks. So not a whole lot longer, but now they're focused just on their own work. So it's open to everyone. But through, I think, our informational session, some people will decide to jump in and some may decide they're not quite ready. So it really is open, but I'm only going to be working with 5. So people want to connect on my Facebook business page, they'll find the details there. The link for the meeting is there. And it's going to be February 27th is the informational session.
So what's that process like? Once you choose your people, then there's a cushion in there and then you jump into the 8 weeks, or?
Yeah, we're going to have the informational session. Then that'll be an opportunity for me to find out who's ready to jump in, who's not. And there'll be that 2-week space before we actually start, which will be in March, because I want them to be published authors by the early part of May this year.
Wow, that is fast.
I move a little quick sometimes.
You move a little quick.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
And yes.
But I get it done.
It does.
You get it done, and obviously well, because your Amazon sales are very good.
Getting it done. So yeah. And I don't want people to feel, because one thing I did, learn, and you probably know this too, as a writer and an author too, that it's like 81. I think the total is like 81% of people who start to write or have a desire to write, they don't do it. Like it gets started, but it doesn't end. And I from a lot of the people in book communities that I'm in, if there isn't like a timetable around it, they'll belabor it, and then it just will keep going and it'll never get done. So by putting really in some of the programs I've heard, they're actually only 9 weeks. So I'm shortening it by 1 week, but this is also going the self-publishing route. So it can be done. It definitely can be done, but it's about making a commitment. That's why I really only want 5 truly committed people, because you've got to really be like on it, Yeah.
And I understand that, because like you said, you got parameters, you got deadlines, and once it comes to publishing, there's no looking back.
Exactly.
There's no looking back. It's like, okay, this is it. Here it is.
Yeah.
Tara, what do you want the public to know about what you're doing? What is it that you want the average person to know? And not so much a takeaway, but what is it? Do you want people that have been thinking about this process to say, hey, it can be done? Do you want people to say, I have a story to tell? What is it that you hope to put out to the public that they can take in?
What I hope to put out is as a certified Canfield Success Principles trainer, what I want people to always know is that the success that they have and define for themselves is their definition, but how they want it to show up in the world can look very different. And one way of just showing up in the world is by sharing your story. That's only one component of what I do. But I also do the coaching part, the mindset. So maybe someone isn't ready to share the story, but they want to do some coaching first to get ready to tell their story. I miss being in the classroom and in different organizations doing my trainings. So now they're virtual. So I actually think it's been great to be able to touch more people, at least virtually. So, what I say is everyone has a gift. Everyone has a skill set. And I just want to bring it out of people and say, what are you sitting on that you haven't shared with someone yet? What's that gift? And there's actually a chapter in our book, and it's called about gifts. It's called Gifts. And that's, that says a lot right there, because a lot of us are sitting on a gift. We're sitting on a skill set. We're sitting on a story that just is still in there. And my goal is to help get that out, whether I get that out through coaching with you, whether I get that out through a story, or whether I get that out through you telling your own story in your own book. That's my goal, because I feel like once we learn something, it's not our job to hoard the information. Our job is to share it. And that goes back to my premise of when I started in the first compilation. Once I was part of one and I learned how to do it, I felt it was my responsibility to open that door and say, who else wants to be able to do this, and with support? And there came emerging out of that.
Yeah.
So, Unadra,
Yes.
as a writer,
I know, right? Yeah.
What's your next project?
I if I sit here and today and said, no, I don't think I'll ever write a book or something again. I said no before, and look right? So I'm open. I cannot say I will not do that again. So I will see what my next step will be as far as writing. But I know that I probably will be speaking a little more about my chapter.
Yeah.
So which is also another area that I'm stepping out on, because I'm usually behind the scenes. I'm more introvert with some extrovert tendencies, but I've never been like speaking and talking and kind of be in the front line. So I think that there's more to come, because we all have an assignment. There's a purpose for all of us here. And as Tara was saying, our gifts, those gifts have to be stirred up and they have to be birthed out. So whatever, my next step is, I'm open to it. I'm going to step out in faith, and we'll see where it goes.
Music to my ears.
Listen, don't. Well, let's talk about that, because music to your ears.
I started something.
I didn't say jump across the whole Red Sea.
No, I'm with you. No. But I did say that the emerging book is just the beginning. I see this one thing that'll definitely be coming is an emerging retreat for women. So that is something that is on my calendar as well. Just need to see how we can all start to move about the world a little differently, but that's definitely on my calendar to hope.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, and that was going to be my last question actually. In this virtual world, right? How are you sharing your message? Is it through a closed retreat? Hopefully, the people that have written the chapters, will they sit in, get somebody to moderate? What does it look like?
Yeah, I actually want to start a book club, and I had put that out there to everyone. So there'll be more details about that on my business page and Tara Hall Inspired Solutions. And so I want to host a book club, Emerging. And whoever has the book, I definitely want to invite people in. Let's continue the dialogue about the book, because that's just the beginning of it. And I also have a closed Facebook group called Jumpstart to Success. And you'll find it's linked to my business page. So people are absolutely welcome to join that group as well, where we have our, I go in, I do some lives, I share a couple of success tips, and, I just share a little bit of information to help the community grow.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, thank you so much for being on The Collective.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time and energy.
Thank
I
you.
hope that those watching, those listening, get your message. And the book is called Emerging: 12 Leaders Share Stories of Inspiration, Hope, and Perseverance. Tara Hall is the person who is the main author. Unedra Moulay has a chapter in the book, and you'll find it inspiring and warm, and it will also let you know you're not in this alone. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And this has been The Collective on WSME Enlightenment Radio.